The idea of sub 2 is like, this is my car. I'm not renting it. I'm not using it short term. I'm not leasing it. I just don't have the title yet. So I don't have the loan in my name. It's in somebody else's name, but I'm going to keep making these payments and be fully responsible. I'll get insurance in my name. I'll make sure they're a part of the policy. The lender's still going to be protected at the end of the day. We make sure everything's all buttoned up, but I'm treating this like this is my car. That's the principal use of sub 2 in a vehicle.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Shinyi's Purpose-Driven Investment Podcast, where we learn from each other, talk strategy, and create return that matter. Today, I have a special guest with me, Mike Davis, joining me. He's what we call the Subto Car Guy, who buys things Subto, anything that moves. How are you doing today, Mike? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing well, Shinyi. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for willing to come over here. And I know you're in my town as well. You currently live still in Baltimore City, right?
Yep.
So you're local. So I wanted to bring you onto the show because I think it's so interesting that, especially in the creative financing space, we learn to acquire a lot of assets creatively and not going to the bank, basically. So how did you ended up dive into this special niche? Like not just buying houses, that you can actually buying car or anything like vehicle. And I also learned that recently people buying airplane as well in this kind of strategy. Tell us about how you started. Why did you decide to dive into this niche?
Yeah, it was a personal need at the time. I just needed a car, and us being in sub 2, that's real estate community on the planet. You learn that you can get all types of assets creatively, right? He's always talked about the F-150 story. He always said that you could get cars sub 2. And then there was a particular time where he sent in some documents in the private community and was like, I'll get to it later. Never explained anything, but at that time, I just needed a car. I was like, all right, cool. Well, I didn't want to go to a dealership, and I gave it a try. I reverse engineered the documentation. Started doing research just to see if it was, legit for myself. And, long story short, I ended up attempting and didn't get one. I had to go to a dealership to get a regular car. I still needed one. But a few days later, I went to a meetup down in Orange County, California. And after the meetup, I was talking with one of my guys, and we were just having a conversation about the idea of sub 2 and anything. And I was like, yo, I was trying to get a car, man, but I couldn't. I didn't know where to look. And he was like, man, why don't you try the Turo groups, man? And I was like, light bulb just went off in my head. I was like, oh my God, I should have did that. You know what I'm saying? So, and at that time, Turo was doing a lot of changes, and there was a lot of people, mind you, there's a point to this, that had this problem, stuck with cars, needed to get rid of them, and they were the prime kind of people to go after. So went into the Turo group, made a post, went viral, first post. Bunch of people was just open to having their cars taken over. And I realized at that point, it was a much bigger problem than what I had, because I was coming from the buy side, but the sellers, a lot of people were just kind of stuck in that rut. So I ended up closing a few deals and, realizing on both sides there was an issue, and ended up, working to solve it. I started doing more research, more understanding, and came up with a process. And then each time that we did it, anyone on the buy or sell side, they were like, this is genius. Like, this has helped out so much. You saved me so many thousands of dollars. You saved me so much turmoil, this and that. And it was just something I was on the side and getting paid for. So I realized it was a bigger thing, but I shared my experiences with other people, and I think it helped out a lot of other people. So then the snowball effect just kind of came. Known to deal with vehicles, and then through more experience, you just become the source. So I think what ended up happening, just over time, we just kept building on it.
You mentioned about Turo, right? But Turo is for car rental, though. When you say you went into Turo, is it because you're trying to buy the car from the person from Turo, or you're trying to rent a car? Can you kind of clarify that?
Yeah, I was trying to buy. So the folks on Turo, like, you got to think about the essence of how these deals work. Like, you can buy, you can rent, you can lease, you can do a bunch of things to acquire an asset, right? Doesn't matter if it's a house, a car, a boat, a plane, doesn't matter. Once you understand what that is, you can work with it. Turo is a model where they do short-term rental, and the people will buy cars on financing to turn around and do short-term rentals. When they're buying, they got it on their credit. Most of them bought with personal credit. Some people bought with business credit. Some people didn't leverage the best ways of getting into deals, so they were stuck with them when the Turo business model said, you know what, I'm going to change things up a little bit. And now their profit margins shrink. They're much harder to show up in the algorithm. Their bookings go down. So for some people who don't have well-oiled machines or can't roll with the punches, they're stuck. So these deals on their personal credit. Now, at that same time, the car market was dipping a lot. because we just got out of the pandemic, prices were super high, and then things were starting to turn around. So a lot of things were going against them, where now you have a whole slew of people who have that problem, right? It's not just the Turo people, it's a lot of people, but Turo folks have a lot of cars. So that made it a little bit easier to go there because it was just an obvious problem. And I didn't think about it beforehand, but after that meetup, it's like, it just makes perfect sense. So coming in there, uncovering that and seeing how many people just didn't want to do Turo anymore. It wasn't worth the squeeze. It was like, you know what, I just want out, but they're stuck with them. So they have to come to the table with a bunch of money to get out of the loans. Or,
Right.
worse, roll them over, it's crazy stuff like that. So coming into this situation, it was a solution for them because they don't have to come out of pocket to sell. Now,
Yeah.
somebody else can just come on and take over the rest of the payments. So depending on the margin on how underwater it is for a buyer, it's advantageous because one, I don't have to put it on my credit. That's valuable. Two, depending on how far underwater it is, it might still be the same cost to me going to a dealership with the warranties, taxes, and everything like that. And I could just come over and take over somebody's payments as is. So from that standpoint, it makes a lot of sense for both sides. It's a win-win. And as a buyer, I don't have to assume their loan. They're willing to keep it in their name because I wouldn't assume it. I could just go to a bank and do it myself, right? So there's value on both sides where it comes in.
Wow. So you perfectly wedge into this situation that you solve their problem. It's
Yeah.
very similar after the Airbnb bust. A lot of people trying to sell short-term rental is not being sold on the market. You did the exactly same thing by going to the Turo people who somehow got screwed up or by the algorithm. Like this algorithm wrecked their business model. All of a sudden, they don't have that profit margin anymore because they're not in control of the marketing channel, and that's their only source. And you kind of come and say, hey, I want to buy it from you, Subto. And if you're out, like this is the term.
Right.
I think that's so genius because then you kind of provide a solution to their pain point and they're motivated. Like you said, they want out.
Mhm.
Help us understand a little bit. So I understand you started with you trying to buy the car for yourself, and then you found this opportunity and you start essentially almost like buying a fleet of car just from the people who are renting their car from Turo and they want
Yeah,
out.
I could. That's the thing, right? So I personally don't keep any of the cars. I'll come in and facilitate deals between buyers and sellers, but I could easily grab a fleet of cars, you know what I'm saying? And on the Turo, on private rentals, like whatever the case. This is a great strategy to acquire vehicles,
Right.
especially if you know what you're doing. So
I gotcha. So you're facilitating the transaction. It's like buying a house creatively. The deed get transferred, right? How does that work for buying a car? Who owns the title now?
yeah, that's a great question. So with vehicles, like subject to is not literally the same thing. We take principles of sub to, and we'll talk about that in a sec, but it's not actually sub to. But auto, the lender keeps the title every time. So it doesn't matter who's driving it, who's controlling it, whatever, the lender keeps the title, right? So the seller will usually have the registration in their name and they'll have the loan legally. They'll still be legally liable for it. They can't assign it. They can't pass on a liability. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they're doing, private agreement, the lender still got the seller on the hook. They can't get around that.
Right.
So
They don't give you the title until you've fully paid out. That's where they mail you that paper and say, hey, this is your title.
So now it just comes down to permissive use. It comes down to like who's going to be using it for what. And for a seller, what they're going to be doing usually is going to be a private deal. It's treated like an agreement for sale, but it's on paper similar to like a lease option just for logistics. But the sub to portion, what that literally means is the same terms that they have with their lender, those same terms get passed over. So you have different types of agreements, right? Like you have normal leases where they'll usually add, something additional every month or whatever the case is. There's a lot of rules around it and you give the car back when you're done. Sometimes there's an option there where you can purchase it outright at whatever set price or expiration date. You can do that if you want to, but usually there's a mileage limit to protect the depreciation in case you get it back. Like all these, technical things around the traditional ways of doing things. The idea of sub 2 is like, this is my car. I'm not renting it. I'm not using it short term, I'm not leasing it. I just don't have the title yet. So I don't have the loan in my name, it's in somebody else's name, but I'm going to keep making these payments and be fully responsible. I'll get insurance in my name. I'll make sure they're a part of the policy. The lender's still going to be protected at the end of the day. We make sure everything's all buttoned up, but I'm treating this like this is my car. That's the principal use of sub 2 in a vehicle.
Okay, so I sort of get it. It's almost treated like an agreement for sale or lease option, right? You don't technically own the title until that gets completely paid off. And there's some sort of private agreement arranged between the car owner,
Yeah.
even though this owner still didn't own the title, but they have a car loan in place with the end user. What does the conversation look like for the end user to go get the insurance? I'm calling insurance company, hey, I wanted to get insurance for this BMW, but I'm not on title. I own this car. I'm paying for
Yeah, it's people a lot of times overcomplicate it, but you're still purchasing the vehicle eventually. So you call, you get a regular policy. You're gonna get a policy. You'll usually have to talk to an agent. You're not gonna say, hey, Mr. Agent, I'm sub to own my car, because they don't even know what that is. But you're gonna say, hey, Mr. Agent, I need to get a policy for this vehicle. By the way, I need to add this person onto the policy as an additional interest or secure party or whatever the case is, depending on the company. And I need to add this lender as the loss payee, because as long as the lender is listed as the proper loss payee, they don't care who's primary, to be honest. When it comes to the insurance policy, they're not gonna pay out unless the registered owner is like a part of it. But as long as the registered owner is on the policy and the lender is a part of the policy, you cover all your bases.
Great. So is the registered owner as a primary or as an additional insurer?
Nah, they don't have to be primary. Like, the registered owner doesn't always have to be a primary on insurance. They just have to be on the policy.
That's true, because sometimes you think about it, sometimes the parents own the car, but they're not the one who drive the car. So the insurance essentially is insure the asset, which is the car. It doesn't matter who's driving it.
I always talk about it like this because there's a 3-tier structure. You got the loan, the people who write the loan, that's the lender. As long as the lender's good, everybody's good. But then underneath the loan, you got the asset. So as long as you protect the asset insurance, right, you set that up proper, you're good. And then underneath both of those are the controllers. That's the people who are using the vehicle for whatever it is. Whoever the controller is, who cares? As long as the asset is protected and as long as the lender get their money, usually there's no issues. What tends to happen and what people don't dive into deep enough is the logistics around people trying to assign their legal obligations to the loan, right? So that's where things like subleasing and all those things start to come into play, that they don't like that, because it's like, no, you can't do that because you're trying to assign your rights. So you know how we do with Subto and houses, in the agreements, is like, it's clear. They got the acknowledgments. This loan stays in your name. It's not being paid off.
Correct.
You're still gonna be responsible for this. Like, your credit is affected. Like, all those things, all that stuff's in the same type of agreements as these. You know what I mean? So there's no actual assignment of legal obligation to the lender. But your cousin gonna drive the car for a little while. As long as he's assured, you good. You know what I'm saying? Like, at the end of the day, if they crash the car, you're on the hook.
It's ultimately up to the person who wants like risks, right? Like, are you okay with, or do you trust the person you're making the agreement with that allowed them to use your car? Because knowing that ultimately you're still responsible for paying the loan, even though the car got driven off the lot and got trashed or, completely destroyed on the street, you're still ultimately responsible for the loan. How did you marry them together, connect them together, right?
Yeah.
I understand there's definitely a need. How did you match these people together? And do you get some sort of management agreement or monthly reward by putting the deal together?
Yeah. So no, I do not take any monthly fees. At least my company doesn't. There are other companies out there that have tried things similar and do that. I don't really like that. Our motto is we get in, we get out. We facilitate the deal. We make sure everybody's good and we set it up and walk. So whoever wants to use the car, ultimately they can make as much money as they want or use it for whatever they want, but they don't have to pay it. The ways that we were able to do it, how it started, was, public forums, public groups, and saw plenty of people who needed a solution to that problem, took care of them, and then went and marketed to people who wanted the vehicles. You know what I'm saying? Which there's plenty of places to go find buyers and sellers now at this point. You use marketplaces, you can use Facebook, you can use different communities. We now have a platform that we're building that makes it super, super easy for any of this stuff. So anywhere on the internet, really, you can find these opportunities. As long as you understand how to structure the deals, you can make something happen.
I see. So you have a website that people can go on and browse the website to see what's available currently?
Yeah. We have a new platform that'll be coming out here very, very soon, if not by the time this recording is released. But that will be available, that you can come to browse for cars, trucks, exotics, boats, small planes, the whole nine, everything creative finance.
Oh, even the boats and the car, not just car, boats and the airplane as well?
Yep.
Anything that moves.
Anything that moves.
That's awesome. So I think that's so smart that you basically arrange the sale. Assume you take like some sort of assignment, one-time fee to
Yeah. So, similar to an assignment. Yeah.
right? And then facilitated discussion, the transaction basically. Let's talk about some pros and cons in doing this, right? There's a need, but in my mind, I'm just thinking, okay, how do I mitigate certain situations? I'm sure everybody in the beginning, they shake hands like, this is good, this is what we're going to do. Take that example that you mentioned. People decide to stop leasing the car, even though they're knowing that they shouldn't do it. When you try to educate, or I guess when you try to put a deal together, I assume you have to have a conversation with them to kind of tell them what to expect.
Yeah. So, because you just asked two different things. So subleasing is something separate, but doing this kind of deal, transparency is a must in any of these. So we always make sure that everybody knows exactly what's going on. We also make sure that the buyer and seller, if they haven't met or they have had a connection, they get one before any transaction is done, and everybody knows what's going on. So there's no wool over anybody here or anything like that. Like, everybody knows the risk. And just like any strategy, this is not without risk. So you always want to make sure that you do protect yourself. Some of this is very common sense in protection, and some of it, things that people need to still look out for. But the first and most important thing is who is in these deals. So if we think even as we go to the bank and we're looking to get a loan, they're going to vet us to as much as they can. They'll use a credit system to do it, your dog report card, see what your history looks like. And then if you fall in a certain bracket, they'll lend to you. This has to go a little bit further than that because you're going to have to get to know the person you're dealing with because they're going to be responsible for your credit for a period of time. So you guys are going to get into a little bit of a relationship. And as long as you know what's going on with the type of person this is, if you wouldn't stop making payments, you don't want to find somebody that all of a sudden would stop, right? You want to find people that think like you, who have similar history to you. A lot of times we are able to marry folks in the similar communities or under, similar backgrounds and things like that. And we were able to get like really solid relationships that end up brewing from these deals. But it all comes down to who gets the car. That's number one. Then once you deal with that, it's the right kind of setup. So as long as you have the right kind of paperwork, you got the right kind of protections, you got the right kind of clauses in case something happens, this and that. You always want to make sure where the vehicle is. So we always recommend every seller put a tracker and a kill switch in the car before you. Yeah, little chips. You control it from your phone. I got one in my car. Same thing. As long as you know where it's at, you know what's going on, you can, worst case, if there's a default, get that thing back, right? The same kind of thing your bank would do. So if you stop making payments, the bank's going to repossess the car. If they can't get it back, or if they get it back in worse condition, they're going to send you a demand letter for the difference. If you don't pay that, then that turns into a suit. If you don't deal with that, then that turns into garnishments, all that. You have the same kind of power as a seller, right? So most people don't know their power, but that's where we get to breaking things down and then how to exercise that in case something were to happen. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, we're not attorneys. You can verify anything that we're saying with attorneys, but this is the process that, a seller can have to make sure that they're settled. And then on the flip side, as a buyer, you got to know that you're dealing with a solid seller, right? Like somebody that's not going to come in mischievous and say, hey, you know what? I'm having an issue with these payments. It's not going to make it for you real quick. And then you give your car to somebody and then 6 months down the road, your life get better. You're like, you know what? I just want that thing back. Like, no, that's a sale. It's done. So
yeah.
you got to make sure you have solid, integral partners on both sides. But as long as things are set up right, you know what I mean? Payment systems and everything all good. You got the right kind of people involved. You're good to go.
Yeah, so it sounds like there's some sort of gut check to see if you think this person's solid, and also maybe some background check as well. It sounds like because you need to check their credit, make sure they have good credit, they can afford this, and then you help with the agreement. Do you encourage them to kind of meet in person, shake hand, or I imagine this is something that it's kind of hard to dispel to people who you haven't met before. It doesn't really matter.
Well, it does matter. So every seller that we deal with, they don't know each other already. They're going to know each other for the deal, right? So we always introduce a buyer and a seller prior to, so they get an idea of who they are. A seller can say, nah, I don't like this person. Cool, no worries. But as long as there's a solid match and connection and, there's an opportunity to know each other, then, and only then we can do business. So make sure everybody, if you can't meet physically, then you're going to meet
virtually, right? And you mentioned about the chips, and things so funny is that almost like you have a pet or something, like running around, you need to like chip them so you know where exactly at all time where they are. Do you have some sort of company that you typically recommend this kind of service? And also, when the car get lost, what's your recommendation? People find their own repo company to repo the car back?
Yeah, because it's going to depend on where it's at in the state, right? So just calling a repo, man, at the end of the day, you give them the coordinates or exactly where it's at, send them on a mission. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of companies out there that do it. I'm not going to necessarily highlight one particular one, but there's a number of companies that you can easily get a tracker installed. Usually going to cost you somewhere between $200 to $300 time and or a monthly fee of like $12, $13 a month.
Are you driving a Subto car right now for yourself?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of car is that?
22 Mustang GT.
Oh, man. That's pretty awesome.
It's way fast.
Yeah. So is this the very first car that you purchased after before you decided to do this?
So obviously I didn't get the very first car when I started because I had already bought the one from the dealership.
Yeah. What happened to that car bought from the dealership?
Yeah, I ended up giving that one. It was a horrible deal. So I ended up getting rid of it, and that was in LA too. But when I got back here to Baltimore, I ended up getting a Infiniti Q60. I got that on seller finance actually. It was Infiniti Q60. Wild story around that one, but it ended up getting stolen. So I was just having to get a different car. It is what it is.
So insurance pay for it, I hope.
Yeah. This is just it's a wild story around that one, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds like it's another podcast just to talk about, or maybe next time when I see you, buy a beer and talk about it. Believe it or not, our car got stolen in front of our house. So I totally get it.
So you always have to vet your entire situation. That's the lesson from that. Wherever this is going, you always vet the entire situation.
Yeah, get the full picture and trust but verify, right? I think you brought a really good point. In the end, people can say anything they wanted to say to get what they want, but if there's no paperwork in the end to back them up, there's no evidence to show that they can truly afford it, you could blow out. in your face. Do you mind sharing a little bit what's the stage and what's the future plan that you have for this? Sounds like a very amazing platform that's AI driven.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the biggest things that I learned doing these vehicles, coming from the real estate space and closing creative finance deals, I started on cash deals, in real estate. So it wasn't only the creative area, but learning about creative finance just opened my mind up to like what's possible, but also realized like how many people need to know this and need to have access to it, not just by knowing somebody or being a part of a paid community or having to, sell an arm and a leg to get access to the knowledge, right? Like everybody should have access to this and they should be able to know where to go to handle these types of transactions. So the vision was always to make creative finance as accessible as possible to as many people as possible. And especially now with the advent of AI, we can take full advantage of that because one, we're able to build solutions a lot faster. Two, we're able to make the understanding a lot easier, especially when you can interface with AI and be able to break these concepts down to a elementary level. So anybody on any level can go ahead and understand this. The way that we're going about it is through building a centralized platform that's like the home of creative finance. So we're the absolute final stages of our V2 of the platform. We've had a V1 out that's been out for a little while. It's an older platform and we're no longer using, but we ended up redoing it and it's fully AI driven now that we can service vehicles, real estate, and business. We're going to start with the vehicles that'll be live up front and you'll be able to deal with creative cars, trucks, boats, RVs, small planes, the whole nine, all creative finance deals. And if you've never done a deal before, you will get walked through exactly how to do it in super simplicity. As a seller, you can list your vehicle. You'll get understanding on how to list, what a deal looks like, how to negotiate, how to understand what your deal is actually worth so you can get compensated fairly, or you can know what to expect coming to the table. And then on the buy side, the beauty is you don't have to deal with a bank. You won't have to deal with a broker. You can deal directly with the seller, ultimately getting the deal, and you'll be able to not have anything affect your debt to income, not have to have something sitting that, blocking your ability to go ahead and do the transaction. So all there with AI that's driving the entirety of the transaction. So it's super, super cool. We're going to make it so that as it continues to grow, there's going to be hundreds and hundreds to thousands of deals available for people, and super, super excited for it because it's going to span across any type of motor vehicle.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I wanted to understand a little bit more. I know AI is not all powerful right now. Everything you can do with the AI. Could you give us just a few examples of how the AI will be integrated? I'm trying to understand that, okay, this is a seller will get an auto text that, hey, what are you trying to sell? Like what kind of AI involvement we're talking about here?
Yeah, so you want to think not necessarily just normal customer service stuff. Like, yes, the AI will help with that. You'll be able to talk to AI and get your normal things dealt with. But what I really mean is full accessibility. So most companies now have a schedule. Most companies have a cutoff time. Most companies have a difference in hierarchy of who has access to what level of knowledge, right? You have to deal with a manager who has a certain level of knowledge. Then you have to deal with an associate. You have to deal with, you know what I'm saying? Like there's just different types of people who all have to get to this person to get an answer. With creative finance, there's not only the transaction itself and issues that come around it, but there's the how to. And when it comes to actually like learning it and knowing it, let alone to have to interact with it, this is where AI really, really shines because you'll have not only access to digital knowledge that you can just do normal learnings with, like different courses and coaching and things like that you can access, but you'll have actual AI agents that you can talk to, that you can learn about creative finance. Any question that you have about how it works, the entire breakdown, it's all there and it's fully interactive. So it comes to your custom situation. You don't have to search through a bunch of different documents to get the answer. You don't have to wait to talk to somebody like myself or anybody else who has an understanding of this. You have full access to the entirety of the game right there for free. So that kind of stuff is what is going to be coming that is, super huge.
So it's like AI agent offer higher level troubleshooting kind of
Yeah,
thing.
not even just troubleshooting, just the understanding of the process, right? So how creative finance works, how lease options work, how wraps work, how Subto works, how this works across any asset that's a house, a boat, a car, a plane, or whatever, how the DMV works, how insurance works, how title companies work, like all of this kind of stuff, let alone throughout an actual deal that you're working with. Like, hey, can you tell me more about this particular asset that you have listed?
Right.
Hey, can you know what I'm saying? Like do this, do that, like it is all there interactive at 3 o'clock in the morning, at 6 o'clock in the morning.
That sounds amazing. So you don't have the team standby to pick up the phone call answering the question. This will help drastically improve the customer satisfaction,
Yep.
especially after hours or something.
Yep, instant.
Well, can we have a sneak peek? Is it done or half done or what's the current?
Not gonna give a sneak peek of it, but yeah, like I said, the platform itself, we're gonna do like a huge launch for it and everything like that. So like I said, there's a few key features about it. One, I think it's first of its kind, at least that we've seen, AI assisted negotiator. So it'll help buyers and sellers deal with getting the right win-win zone. So, for us, when we deal with
Interesting.
a win-win deal, right? It's like, all right, cool. Like, I want what I want, you want what you want. Like, we've designed it so that anybody can come on a platform and do a deal. The issue and the reason why we did it is because anybody coming on that doesn't know creative finance, some people don't even know they're offering a bad deal. Some people don't even know what a bad is. Let alone some people just fully taking advantage. Like, you know what? This person's ignorant. I got all the game. I'm about to rimroll them. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just avoid all of that. So there's guardrails and there's things that are set up. And this is why AI assistance is so powerful, because there's the ability to dial some of that back. This is a zone that actually makes sense for a fair deal.
Like a reasonable market value, so to speak, right?
Yeah, the market value, but then the terms, which is the super important thing. 'Cause you can get comps from anywhere, but now just understand what terms are fair, what terms make sense, what terms are not egregious, like 15% on 50 years. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's just things that
No, yeah. You just open my mind a little bit. I'm like, wow, yes, AI could definitely do that, knowing the market value and knowing the term that people prefer to find that sweet spot, because it's all math in the end.
all
Like,
back to the day.
it's all math, and then they can do it much faster than
Mhm.
human brain. So that could definitely help facilitate the transaction much faster. I'm thinking it could even help you write the contract. Is that what's in your mind as well? Show put in the term and
Yeah, AI does. Obviously, we don't, at this point use AI to substitute attorneys.
draft support attorney review.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool features, like I said, that are integrated that we make it the experience overall definitely gonna be revolutionary for the buying experience and the selling experience.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. That sounds very exciting and then definitely open a lot of opportunity. And I agree, this is a huge need here because in the end, car is so basic. It's a basic transportation tool, right? Everybody needs it. But again, not everybody had the traditional mean to acquire that through traditional financing, but they can afford it. A lot of times, self-employed people, they like to buy things in cash, for example, and that will be your perfect customer that is just like, I don't want to go to the bank. I never deal with them. I don't even have a credit card. Can I just buy a car? There's cash ready. Yeah, I'm cash ready. I love it. I love it. What's next for you? How can people reach out to you?
You definitely reach out to me at Mike Will Closing on everything. I'm always on Facebook, always available. You reach out to me on Instagram as well. We have TC company, topwheels.io. So anybody who has deals that they need help with can always reach out to us there. I've got a couple of top tier TCs that are absolutely amazing. So anything that you need done with a vehicle, doesn't matter what type of vehicle it is, they're more than qualified to help out. And we handle real estate deals as well. So anybody on the TC side, we can definitely help you out there. But if you are looking for a vehicle, reach out. We got plenty of vehicles available on private inventory. And again, some will be available public as well.
I'm glad to hear it sounds like you have all the team ready to go, transaction coordinating the entire deal to make it smooth selling. I want to thank you again for coming to this podcast and share what you know, and very excited for you that you have a future opportunity coming up for this amazing platform. And we're definitely going to drop all the links that you mentioned in the description so people can reach out to you. And thank you so much again, Mike.
Appreciate you, Shinyi. Thank you for having me.